presentation. She said it could be an hour, but it don't take that long. Nobody wants to talk about bugs that long. So if you have any questions, we're going to be doing a ton of, well, I'm going to leave a ton of time for Q&A. So anyway, I'm assuming y'all can see the screen. So we'll start with that. We are Talent Termite. There we go. Cool. Now I can see it. Thanks. So like I said, I started the company 2 years ago, October of 2019. Got out of the Navy, wanted to do something different, and started Talent Termite. So in that time, we've grown. We've got now four full-time inspectors, 6 or so technicians, and then 3 folks in the office. So we're growing quick. Our bread and butter is real estate, termite, and moisture inspections. That's what we do. We also do pest control and mosquito and all the kind of general recurring stuff. But our bread and butter, what we built our company on, is doing inspections for you guys. So that's it. We're young, we're hungry, and we're. If you have feedback, let us know, because we can shift. So anyway. Let's see, front slide here. You can email, call. We actually have a website. You can see at the bottom left there that you just fill out a form on, and it'll schedule an inspection with us. Yeah, try to make it very easy for you guys. Bottom right there, our inspectors have rain access. So Christian and I were just talking about that. We are considered unlicensed assistants, is the verbiage that RAIN uses for us. So we do require a CBS code. You don't have to have a CBS code enabled on the box, but, and we'll get more clarity on this, but basically you go into your RAIN app and you look at that particular box. There is a CBS code assigned to every box according to RAIN. And so far we've had good luck with that. So if you don't want to go to the property, save yourself a trip, shoot us that CBS code and we'll take care of it. All right, let's go to the next one. There we go. All right, so who we are: locally owned, veteran operated. We live by our 3 values: accurate, honest, and fast. We preach this all the time to our guys. Accurate means we're professionals. We are constantly doing continuing ed ourselves. Our guys go through training very regularly through all of our governing organizations, VDAC, Virginia Pest Management Association, et cetera. We want to be the best at what we do. Honest is how we do it. We are very, very transparent with what we find, what we don't find, pictures. We will often crawl with other, most of our technicians or our inspectors should have another respirator on their truck and a crawl suit. So if you guys want to come down in the crawl, great, come on down. We'll show you guys.
We don't go in the crawl space because it's a liability.
Oh, there you go. I've had one agent take me up on it. It was a fun time.
It is a fun time. I've been in a lot of crawl spaces, but just so you know, guys, if you cannot walk into it, do not let your client or yourself go in there. That is why we pay a professional to go under there for us, because that is his liability, not yours. Because if something breaks under there, or if something is broken under there, it can become an issue and they can claim that you did it.
There you go.
And it's you against them.
There you go. That's why we take pictures. So we have lots of pictures that we take. One thing that separates us from, I believe, most of our competitors is that our technicians, or excuse me, our inspectors do not get paid commission based on what they find in your crawl space. So most companies get paid. I don't know about all companies. There's a lot of companies that get paid based on what they find in your crawl. We don't do that. We pay our guys a salary.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so they get bonus based on number of inspections they do. So it's a little different model, still fair for the inspector, but basically it incentivizes them to hustle, and it puts the onus on us to find quality inspectors that are going to probe the crawl space and find the issues that they need to find and not the issues that they don't need to find. And then fast. We are building the company so that we can be quick to get you all the inspections you need. We generally can get an inspection next day, sometimes same day. We really try to have a little bit of an excess capacity there for you guys. Moving on, 3 things we say every agent should know about termite and moisture inspections. One, if your crawl space hasn't been inspected or your client's crawl hasn't been inspected in 3 to 5 years plus, give us a call. Nothing gets better with time, especially crawl spaces. So we have a service, our pre-inspection crawl space. So this is for your listings. Don't wait until it gets under contract to get somebody in your crawl space. Give us a call. It's $55 for a pre-listing inspection. It's basically free. Now, the way that works is that's to get us in the door. The rest, so our crawl space inspections are 110. So the rest, the balance of that, well, the difference there, the next 55 will be due once we do that final letter. So normally what will happen, we'll do that pre-inspection. Underwriters want to see a letter that's been done within 30 days. So we'll update that letter, and that next charge will be the 55. So it's 110 total. But that gets us in early. It lets you and your client know what issues are going on in the crawl space, if there are any. And then frankly, it gives us time to be able to fit that work in, and so nobody's scrambling at the 11th hour.
Yeah, remember guys, so they're gonna find it anyways. You might as well find it on your client's terms and prepare them to repair it anyways. Or else your contract is just gonna fall apart, and then you're gonna have longer market times.
Yep. And so for things like termite, things that are pretty indisputable, if another company, say the buyer's company, comes in and finds termites, and God forbid we missed it, we're going to treat that for free. So it's a little bit of insurance on your part anyway, right? So if our guy misses something and the other guy has proof, right? If he just says, hey, I found termites, all right, is there a big picture? What are we talking about? But we're going to stand behind those inspections. So it's peace of mind for you guys as well. Our inspections are non-invasive. Number two there, we can't see through walls as much as we'd like. We use tapping on wood, probing joists, wood members underneath the crawl, and moisture content, moisture meters, stuff like that, to look in. But we can't see behind siding. We can't see behind drywall. The only way to know for sure is to open it up, which is hard to do. And then number three, crawl space conditions change relatively quickly. This is super important this time of year. Hold on one second. I see a chat here. How do you define moisture? Good question. Moisture for us is anything below in the understructure of the property. So we don't get involved in anything from the subfloor up. And then defining moisture, if I understand your question, you might mean excessive moisture, and we're going to get into that a little bit. Normally, it depends on the season. If there's a bell curve, right? So on the winter seasons, it's going to be correct, excessive, perfect. Okay, cool. That's what I thought. I'm gonna throw this chat over here so I don't miss it. Yeah, excessive moisture is tricky. We're going to talk about that in a couple slides here. But essentially, in the wintertime, if you had a home that had 15% moisture, let's just say, I would consider that excessive in the winter, because if it's dry and humid outside and you have 15%, there's something going on. You also have to look at all the other factors that go in with that. Is there fungus? Is the wood damaged? Is the vapor barrier in place? Is there standing water? So all of these things kind of, we look at them and you say, okay, what's going on in this house? How do you eliminate that problem? Which problem? The moisture problem? Yeah.
So let's say a house has excessive moisture, but there is no, and we spray for fungus, but now we have to keep the moisture down. Mm-hmm. What are we doing for that?
Yeah, so good question. We don't like, if you just spray for fungus,
it doesn't take care of the moisture problem. So what do we do now?
Correct. So we always look at the why behind it. Why is this problem happening in the first place? So unfortunately, we get a snapshot in time to look at a home. So we get 1 day, 1 hour, whatever it is. That's what we see. So again, we got to look at it. Where are we in the year? What's going on? What other factors are happening? So the best two ways, the least invasive and least expensive way to fix moisture is just put a good vapor barrier down. The three places that water, moisture, whatever you call it, gets into a crawl, generally speaking, is through the ground vapor. So if you've ever gone camping, you throw out a tarp and you put your tent on top of that. In the morning, you got your vapor barrier underneath the tarp. That is analogous to your vapor barrier, but instead of a tent, it's your house. So if you don't have that vapor barrier, all that ground moisture coming up is getting into your wood. The second place is humidity. Southern Virginia, we have a ton of, it's
We
humid,
might as
hot,
well live in the
sticky.
rainforest.
Yep, so that's coming in from ambient air. And then the third place is, I would say HVAC is most common, sweating HVAC. So if you see fungus that's concentrated directly over an HVAC main line, for example, you put all the vapor barrier in there you want, you're not going to fix that. So again, every situation is different.
So how do we fix the main, let's say we do, I mean, because I've seen that a lot where people will think they have a roof leak or they think they have like, like I've even seen, wooden floors buckle because of tears in the HVAC.
Yep. Call an HVAC company.
I mean, like, do we insulate it? Like, what do we do?
That's an HVAC question.
Yeah.
We basically just defer to the HVAC folks and say,
Okay.
Hey, how can you fix it? The other option would be to do a dehumidifier. I know it's like a dirty word for agents, but dehumidifiers are amazing. Frankly, every crawl space in Hampton Roads would probably benefit from them. Depends, but in that situation, what would happen would be that you would close that system. So most crawl spaces are open, meaning meaning moisture from external to the crawl space comes into the crawl and leaves the crawl, and overall that ambient,
Supposed to breathe.
Yep, drier in the summer, drier in the winter, humid in the summer, drier in the winter. Overall, that curve stays below the levels of which fungus forms. Obviously, that doesn't always happen. That's best case scenario. So if you have a scenario where a man-made object, HVAC line, is causing that moisture to be inputted in the crawl space, elevating all those levels, really your only options are insulate that HVAC unit or put a dehumidifier down there, close that system, right? So you close your crawl space and you pull out all that moisture via dehumidifier. So mechanically, we're taking control of the moisture in your crawl space and we're pulling it out.
By close the system, do you mean encapsulate the crawl?
So encapsulate is another one of those
Yeah,
buzzwords.
yeah, I know,
everybody gets
is that what you're, because that's the word we're used to hearing. So is that what you're referring to by close the system, or are we just closing the little vents?
So encapsulate to me means, it's very vague, but we don't normally use the term encapsulate because encapsulation normally comes with putting the foam board insulation around.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. All you need is a high quality vapor barrier, foundation wall to foundation wall, right? You don't want as little soil shown as possible. So 99% coverage, let's say.
Mhm.
And then in each of the vents, we put a little bit of foam board, to 1-inch foam board or something in those vents, do a little bit of seam around it of sealant. Now this is on the inside, so on the outside, you can't see this. And then we put a dehumidifier in there and we run that line outside.
Okay.
So that's it. So
Just curious, sorry,
call
I don't
it
know what the
encapsulation.
difference is.
I think it
'Cause that's
depends
not
company
really-
to company, because
Yeah.
JES, if you told them encapsulation, it's going to be, first of all, 20-inch or 20 millimeter or thicker poly, which the thickness
just
of the
seems
poly
excessive to me.
is really just how long it's going to last. They're going to do probably a sump pump, a vapor barrier installation. So we
It's
don't
a
need to do
whole-
all that. That's a
we
whole
don't-
other thing.
that's a whole,
So
yeah, no.
yeah, so that's how you mechanically get it out. So hopefully I answered your question. But actually that is right in number 3. Crawl space conditions change relatively quickly. We get a limited snapshot in time. If you have heavy rainstorm, for example, it might flood. And so that is why lenders want to see that 30 days, right? They want to see that if it's been over 30 days, we want somebody else down there checking it again because conditions can change. So we actually covered a lot, which is great. Let's see. All right. Show of hands. I'm just kidding. Who knows what Centricon is? Do you know what Centricon is? So it is.
Yes, it's the non-liquid. It's like you're like
Yeah.
nuking those poor little suckers.
Well, yeah, no nukes, but it's a bait. It's a bait basically versus a liquid. Centricon is just a brand name. It's the Kleenex of tissues, basically. It's the whatever. It's the top of the line. So you have to get licensed to sell Centricon. So we are licensed Centricon specialists. And what, in a nutshell, the differences are between Centricon and liquid. First of all, both are in the state of Virginia legal for real estate remediation. So if you have termites, we and any other company can put down Centricon, and it is accepted by Virginia. So there's that. Liquid is the older one, so we'll start with that. Liquid's been around for a while. Now the chemicals have changed, but the premise is the same. Around the perimeter of your crawl space, and I've got the little pictures of the technician there. We trench a 6-inch by 6-inch trench around the perimeter of your home. Anywhere where we can't get to, so a sidewalk, a driveway, we're drilling. So we're drilling with a 1/2-inch drill bit down through the concrete until we reach dirt. And then we come back and we inject that termiticide, the liquid, into that trench at a rate of either 4 or 2 gallons per 10 linear foot, depending on the chemical. We only use Termidor, so it's 2 gallons per 10 linear feet, but it doesn't anyway. You see the little guy in the crawl space there too. When we do a liquid treatment, we're also getting our guys and we're doing the same thing on the inside of your foundation, because we want to basically create a liquid fence in that dirt to keep the termites, if and when they crawl through there, they get that chemical on their body through that dirt, and then they transfer that to their buddies, and then
Everyone dies.
Everyone dies. They kill them.
What about on a slab?
On a slab, we can only do the outside.
Okay,
So we're doing the same thing. It's just on the outside. We
okay,
can't get underneath.
just curious.
Yep. I'm trying to think if it shows on there. We are injecting down to the footer. And you can kind of see in that bottom right, actually, there's a couple of them that have the footer there. So we have a rod, we stick down into the soil, pump, mount it in the truck, and it pressure releases that chemical into the soil. The pros of this approach are that one, it's been around for forever. Two, the chemical is in the ground for 5 to 10 years per label.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's kind of
that's a
nice.
long time.
It's a long time. Now, the efficacy of it decreases over time, right? So you put it in there, and let's say you have a bunch of rain, you do some construction or landscaping where you move that dirt, etc. It's going to break down. Also, there's potential for gaps in that coverage. If you imagine you're injecting it every 18 inches, it has an additive in the chemical that absorbs into the soil around it, but there's possibility that there's holes in there, and theoretically termites can exploit that. So there's that. Moving on to Centricon. This is a newer, I say newer, it's been around 20 to 30 years still, and there's plenty of science. There's a ton of science to back this up. Just transparently, I have Centricon on my house. I'm kind of a data nerd and was sold by the data on Centricon. We drill into the soil just outside your drip line every 10 to 20 feet. We drill and put these little green stations. They sit flush to the ground. So on the top, all you see is a little disc, and over time, the grass basically grows over it. You don't even know it's there. What that does is termites, and when they're coming up from the ground, essentially look like an underground tree where they're foraging for food, and the branches and the leaves of that tree they come in contact with these base stations just by nature of how they forage. The chemical in there is, again, 1 day of feeding on it. That termite, they prefer it, I think it's 10 times as to wood. They've done a bunch of studies, and entomologists watch termites over long periods of time, which is fun. And then they bring that back to the colony. And Centricon has the claim, which has been backed up by several different studies, that they have colony elimination, which is a big deal. So that gets all the way back to the queen. Their big slogan is death to the queen. Once you kill the queen, lights out, right? The whole colony collapses, and that's good. That's what we want. So these things have a ton of science behind them. The good part about them, number one, they're super safe. You can handle them with your hands. I'd probably wash my hands if I were eating afterwards, but they work on molting. They kill them when they molt, and because we don't molt, dogs don't molt, kids don't molt, anybody, cats don't molt, anything that's going to potentially come in contact with this, it's completely safe for them. Also, when they're in the ground, they're extremely hard to get up, and your dog, kid, whatever, is not going to be able to pull them up. I've got little kids. I don't have a dog, but I do have little kids, and they don't mess with them. The other good thing about Centricon is that it's environmentally friendly. We're just sticking these little stakes in the ground. We're not dumping hundreds of gallons of chemical, or at least tens to 100 gallons of chemical in your yard, and we don't have to drill through concrete. The downside is it is a subscription service. So you need to be checking these bait stations. You being the termite company needs to check these bait stations at least once per year. The chemicals are so good in them and they have so much chemical in them and they use so little that you can go a whole year, but we need to get there and we need to check them. So that being said, for real estate transactions, it's going to be a conversation between you and us and your client, and we'll do whatever you want to do. We stand behind both of them. They're both fantastic treatment options. They both work. It's pros and cons to both. If you do decide with us and to go with a Centricon treatment, basically what we do is we have the seller, generally, if they're paying, cover the initial install fee, because there is an install fee on the Centricon, and then 1 year of coverage, and that equals $799. So that's another pro. It's a flat $799 for any home under 400 linear feet of perimeter, which is 99% of homes in the area. If you get some giant home, let's talk, but it's not that much more. So that's the benefit. It's flat rate, doesn't break the bank. So, all right. So much humidity in my house, it makes me crazy. Let me just make sure I didn't miss another one. All right. I have so much I use a dehumidifier around the house, takes gallons of, yep. Is it safe to use the dehumidifier in the attic? I don't have a crawl space. I believe it would be. I'd have to check and see if you have an attic dehumidifier. Attics get super hot. That's the only problem. And so you probably have to make sure that whatever dehumidifier you have is rated for the attic. We don't put them in attics. Generally, an attic is also not a closed system. It's meant to be open. You have air coming in from your eaves and from roof vents, and also a fan.
Yeah, because you got your roof redone recently. So make sure that they put the ridge vent in.
Yeah.
And that your insulation isn't blocking your soffits.
Yep. Yeah.
It'll breathe more.
Right. So attics are just, kind of a completely different animal, but yeah, certainly if I can do some digging on that and see if there is anything designed for an attic, but I would mainly say the first thing is make sure that that circulation, make sure your ridge vents and those fans that should be moving air through are working correctly. Attics have the benefit of having more space, which is a little bit easier to move air through. Crawls get really bogged down. My theory is that when crawl spaces were first kind of around, they've been around for forever. Open crawls, houses were kind of tiny, right? You think of your 1,500 square foot house or something that was built in the 70s with nothing in the bottom of it. That air can move very freely. Now we have these mammoth houses with these crazy floor plans. That air gets trapped underneath there and can't move. And so oftentimes the old houses have been around for forever and it's working. Whereas the newer houses, because they put so much junk in there and they threw giant HVAC lines and whatever complex floor plans, you actually see more moisture problems. So the simpler the design of the house, generally the less problems. Generally, that's a real wide brushstroke there. But and then I think for attics, that's kind of why it's generally a larger space, a little bit more simple, just flow the air through. So anyway, questions on liquid and termite?
No.
Cool. All right. So we kind of already touched on this next one, so we'll kind of breeze through it, but dehumidifiers and sump pumps, that's where we get the most of our questions on, and we're moving into that time of year. When do we require them? What's the difference? Sump pumps, we're going to use if there's large areas of standing water. If that standing water appears to come and go quickly, sometimes we will not require them. So meaning if we check your house and there's a giant rainstorm the night before, and there's no evidence of wood damage to the boards, there's no evidence of fungus, and it's clear that this water just comes and then it goes within a few hours, let's talk. It's a case-by-case basis. But when there's standing water in the crawl space, there's nowhere to go. We talk about gutters and grade. Those are our two things that we talk about. And that's something that as an agent going to the house, gutters and grade, look at it as you're approaching the house. That's what our inspectors are trained to do. If you don't have gutters, all that water is coming right down next to your foundation and coming up underneath your crawl. If you do have gutters and the downspout goes right next to your foundation, it's probably doing the exact same thing. It's just all in one location. So you want to have gutters that take that water and move it away from your house, which leads into grade. You want that water to have somewhere to go. If your house is built in a fishbowl and all that water comes right back down, that water's got nowhere to go. It takes forever for it to absorb in the ground. It's not going to do it. So that's when sump pumps come into play. Certain things like those situations. We put a sump pump in the ground, which is a glorified trash can with holes in it and a reverse toilet pump in it, right? So when the water level rises, then it turns on versus the other way around.
So this
Yep.
is why when you go to build a new construction house, a perk test is so important. It's not just for septic, it's to see how quickly water can dissipate through the soil. Is it gonna stand under the house?
There you go.
This is exactly what this guy is talking about.
So, and then French drains and sump pumps go hand in hand. If you got two separate places of water, your options are either put two sumps in, which is kind of expensive, or you draw you take a French drain, which is again, hole in the ground, big rock drainage gravel, tube with holes in it, more rock drainage gravel, and you place it from that location to the sump pump in a downward slope, so that that water, basically you're channeling it to that sump pump. So then the sump pump will pump that water out, and then you have to put your exit valve somewhere in the yard that's got a drain. Every
be
house is different.
downhill.
It's got to be downhill, right? Otherwise you just
Well,
gonna
I
have
mean,
a cycle that keeps
yeah.
pumping it and it'll go back into your house. So every house is very different on this. If we do have sump pumps, oftentimes we'll have our guy that does sump pumps come out separately, so he can really identify, hey, where am I going to put this stuff? Where do you recommend it? But yeah, you'll see that more often, yeah, in the summertime when there's more water, as well as the dehumidifiers. So same thing, dehumidifiers are used to lower air humidity. If you get, like I said down there, 20% plus in wood moisture levels, you're really got to start thinking about a dehumidifier, because what happens is that moisture, those beams, they're pressure treated, they're designed to withstand a little bit of moisture. But if you put a beam down there, that pressure treatment, first of all, is going to leave. The pressure treated properties are going to leave over time. Moisture gets in that wood, fungus, mold, wood rot, all kinds of bad stuff that doesn't help. And then you're going to have thousands of dollars of wood damages and sagging floors and all kinds of other fun stuff. So you definitely want to. Do you need permits for a French drain? That is a great question. We have gotten conflicting information on this. Historically, no. We've had two separate people tell us yes and one said no. So we're still looking into that. We, yeah, generally we do not. And just because we don't, again, we've had people in deep water tell us we don't. So it depends on who you talk to. We're gonna try to keep getting answers on that. But again, we've had two different people tell us yes and no. Go ahead.
It depends on where the exit of the French drain is. Okay, so if you're draining onto a public sidewalk or into public, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
we
so
don't
it's gonna
ever-
matter where, like, that's why it's a conflicting answer. It matters where the French drain has to be, which is why he has a guy that
Right.
tells you exactly where everything needs to be. Because then if it crosses, you know, an easement or something, that's when you have to go ask for permission.
Yeah, so yeah, we don't ever, at least
You don't
to
run
this
into that.
point, we don't run into that issue. We're not going to anybody else's lawn. We're not
That's
putting it on there.
that's the complicated answer.
So, yeah, so
Yes, but no.
yeah, to that point, I should mention, we are licensed contractors, so any kind of wood repairs that we do, we have two separate contracting crews that are 1099 to us that we use. Yes.
Are you class A?
Nah, Class C.
Class
You know
C.
what the difference is?
Yes.
What is the difference?
You can only do jobs under
That's right.
$10,000.
That's right. But we can general contract too. Our contractors are Class A. So,
Right,
yeah,
exactly. So it
that's
doesn't matter.
how
You're
we're-
covered under there. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're covered under their Class A.
Yep.
They're all licensed and insured. We're licensed and insured, all that good stuff.
Just
But
out of curiosity.
no, for sure. We will. I know. But to you guys, it's transparent, right? You bill us and we're the general contractor. You press the easy button, we're dealing with them. You don't have to deal with them. Okay. There you go. I think we covered a lot of that previously. This is the arrow work. All right. Moving into the real fun stuff. I'm just gonna blow through this. Everybody's seen this. We get kind of the same questions that I want to go over.
Yes, please do, because I just got one that's crazy and I don't know how to read it.
So first of all, let's get the verbiage out of the way. Clear letter. There is no such thing on our reports as a clear letter. We know what you guys mean and we try to make sure we're all on the same page, but your definition of clear letter and my definition of clear letter might be different. My definition of a clear letter is if you look down there on section 3 where it says recommendation based on the findings, my definition of clear letter is no further recommendation. That's a clear letter in my opinion. However, we will still leave section 2, box B checked. So say there's termites, right? There's termite tubes on the crawl. Say we knock them down. There will still be number 2 there. Yep, shelter tubes, staining, visible, all that stuff is
They
still
were
visible.
here, but
They
they're
were
not here.
Yes, so we're going to leave that checked because we believe that's dishonest to take that off there. So we're gonna leave that checked. We've had trouble with that in the past. Most agents are cool with it. This is, hey, what did you find? We're not gonna lie on our report and say, no, it's all gravy. No, there was. And so this is also a document, that's a legal document that the next company can look back at and say, oh yeah, they found termites here. And it could potentially help that person in the future, right? Because think about it, if you had 4 years down the road and you're trying to figure out, is this new termite or old termite? Hey, this was already here, it was marked on this other company's graph. It's gonna help down the road. So we leave that checked. It is not a structural report. That's another big one. We are contractors. We're not structural engineers. We have structural engineers that we trust and refer all the time. Happy to give that as information out, but we are not structural engineers. We do not have the 100-pound brain to be able to do that. I think that's all. And then additional comments. We try to give as much amplifying information as possible where we found the damage, or evidence, etc. And then you'll often see that we put in here talent termite to be paid at a closing. One thing I'll pause here on is we will require either the credit card to be put on file for the inspection from whoever's paying for it, and it still will be paid at a closing. Think about like a hotel. If you check into a hotel, you put your credit card on file for incidentals. Yes, Regina, I can absolutely do that with you. Send me an email, or I'll email.
Yeah, I'll get
email you guys.
everybody's
Cool.
email.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. His Zach Shepard is his name. He works for Giles and Fleisch. Good guy. Basically we found out that a lot of people were not closing on their homes, and then they said, oh, you don't have to pay the termite guy. Unfortunately you do. Our guys are still underneath there, so you do need to pay. And so we just have to change our policy in order to not keep raising prices. But we still get paid at a closing. So we won't charge the card unless it's 30 days after closing and we haven't been paid and we've talked to whoever's in charge. So we're not just going to charge the card. Or they can pay up front as well. Either one, doesn't matter to us. All right. Okay. Yeah, so let's do box 2 down there. We've had a question on this. So most people have heard 5 years, right? 5 years, if you haven't had a treatment and there is evidence of termites, you have to have a treatment. That was in the old NPMA 33, which is the form we're looking at. We and most companies that I've talked to still operate off that 5 year. And the reason is that's what the label says. The label on Termidor says 5 to 10 years. So in my mind, if a licensed company treated it, I'm going to take their word that they used, and hopefully they will have to have proof of it for us to do this. They have proof of it. They use this chemical. It's good for 5 years. We'll sign off on that as long as the damage is old. I have run into other companies recently, and it was actually his own treatment. He was going to make that person have another treatment. It was 4 years ago. There was no new damage. He treated it 4 years ago. He was going to make them do another treatment. To us, we disagree with that. So we stay with the 5 year. The reason being, if you read the verbiage here, it says corrective action should be recommended. So should, number one. One, if live termites are found. If that's the case, we're going to treat 10 times out of 10. Number two, if no evidence of previous treatment is documented and evidence of an infestation is found, again, we're going to treat 10 times out of 10 on that one. The squirrely one is the last one. Treatment or corrective action, so maybe, right, there's that verbiage, may be recommended if evidence of infestation is observed and a documented treatment occurred previously. So this, basically, they took out that 5 year verbiage and they passed it down to the termite company to say, you can recommend this no matter what. So theoretically, you could have treatment yesterday and we could recommend it, which is why I don't like this. So we're staying by, for us, if you use us, it's 5 years. Yes.
I have a question. So we had a situation a while ago with where a termite treatment was supposedly done and billed on the settlement statement, but there were definitely still live bugs under there. So at what point do we get to call in the second opinion?
Did you call the company and say, hey, there's live bugs?
Yep.
What did they say?
They said it was already treated,
What was the time gap?
probably 4 or 5 days.
Okay, so that
Right, so
chemical
like-
takes a little bit of time to work.
Right, so yeah,
So-
so we didn't know that, but
Yeah.
it didn't appear that it had been treated.
So we take pictures, so this goes back to us.
I'm just
We
curious.
take pictures, again, our guys, of the trench. So if they're doing a liquid treatment, they take pictures of the trench. They
Mhm.
take pictures of the trench with chemical in it, with their rod in the ground. So it's no, you know.
There's no question, that went in there.
And if then if they have to drill, those drill marks are fresh. You can tell where they patched it.
Okay,
So there's that for us. We've had one situation where a month afterwards, they still had termites in the sill. And what happened was, by the way, we treated multiple times on this property. What had happened was that window had leaked. And so you couldn't tell us again, go back to, I can't see through walls. That window had leaked. And so internal to that wall, there was moisture. So the termite colony was actually living above ground,
right,
which is kind of crazy, right? So they're living in the wall. So we didn't see that. So our chemical treatment that we had applied on the front of the foundation, the back of the foundation, around all the piers, those termites
nothing.
weren't going down in the ground anymore because all their moisture, they need moisture to live. All their moisture was supplied by that wet wall through that leaking window. So they ended up fixing the window. We can foam the wall. And so we ended up doing that. So you drill a tiny pinprick hole in the wall, stick foam in there. It expands, I think 32 times, looks like cotton candy. It expands in the joist or between the studs, excuse me, and kills on contact. So we did that, boom, problem solved. So sometimes it is like,
Yeah.
Hey, this is a weird situation.
because the only weird one I've seen is when I used to work with, I used to run a construction company, and it was a condo association that had been treated for termites multiple times. Well, they had serious roof issues.
Mhm.
We got a call for what was supposedly mold. The mold guy went there, stuck his hand through the drywall in the
Yeah.
closet and came back with termites on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, that's bad. That's really
Yeah.
bad.
I was like,
Termites, yeah, they normally don't go up more than 6 feet, about
Yeah.
eye level or a little bit.
so apparently it had been treated it had been
yeah.
treated at ground level.
Right,
They moved up
they're living.
and then they got
Yeah.
treated again, but they kept missing part of it. They
Yep.
didn't do the foam.
So yeah, that fused foam or fipronil is the active ingredient in some of them. Yeah, that's key to getting into those wall voids.
Yeah, they didn't get them all.
Yep, and yeah, so that's, but again, in that situation, I mean, we're not charging for those retreats. I mean, we're standing behind, we're gonna fix this problem one way or the other. Down there on the bottom in number 4, I said preventative measures, installing Centricon, removing wood debris and fixing drain issues. These are things that you can tell your clients, hey, look, we live in Southern Virginia. Termites are kind of an inevitability in the sense of it's wet, humid. The conditions here are kind of perfect for them. And so take preventative measures just like you would, right? You cut your bushes back so you don't have, like, so people don't want to break in your windows and they can't, all these things that we do preventatively. You put your seatbelt on when you drive, same thing. Don't have wood debris stacked up against your house. Fix your drainage issues so your wood's not wet. And then the best one would be install Centricon. So, cool. Moisture report very quickly. We talked on this, great question. What do you consider excessive? That's my least favorite question that we get, have to answer on every one. And so you see, based on a careful inspection of the readily accessible areas of the understructure as described on the reverse side of the property listed above. Again, understructure, we're not commenting on roofs, windows, all that good stuff. We're strictly subfloor. Excessive is vague and undefined by anybody. Yes.
What do we consider, when you, obviously, like, a crawl space is up off the ground. So when you have a slab, like, what are you considering, like, the slab is the subfloor? Like, how high up is this go? Like, what is?
Nope. If it's a slab, we can't see it. I mean, it's
Okay,
it's just no down the board, and it says on the bottom there in the comment section, it'll say house on slab, no understructure to observe. We can't see it. In that box, this will always be checked yes. There's always some kind of instructions, right? So it's insulation, plumbing, ductwork. There's always going to be something. And we just use it to say, hey, look, there is stuff down there. We're moving as much as we can to see behind stuff, but we're not moving your subfloor insulation. We're not moving ductwork to, especially the non-flexible one. We don't want to touch that because we don't want to be responsible for it. So we try to touch as little as possible down there. The only thing we're going to probe is the actual wood itself. Very briefly, we didn't talk about it, but since we're on moisture and subfloor insulation, the minute your subfloor, again, taking the word for it of basically other people's tests, the minute your subfloor insulation gets wet, humid, and holds that moisture, its thermal properties are lost. So it's essentially useless. It's a wet blanket, so to speak. And it doesn't do anything. Yeah. So all you're doing with that subfloor insulation is holding on to that moisture. It makes it harder to get out of there.
So what do you recommend for
Pull it
underneath?
out.
Get rid of
Pull
all
it
that.
out.
They make us put it under there.
Only for new construction.
No, if you get a building permit and redo another house, you have to put that insulation under there.
Building permit though.
Yeah.
If you're selling the house, it's not required to be
No.
underneath there. So you can pull it out. So again, just using my own house, I bought my house, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, did not have subfloor insulation, do not want subfloor insulation, never had subfloor information. It was on the home inspector. It's always going to flag on the home inspection
Yeah,
report.
I've had people
But-
demand it.
Yeah, we have too, but generally if you ask the home inspector, I've never met a home inspector that will recommend subfloor insulation in
Yeah.
this area. The thermal savings you're getting are minimal. I live, I don't know, last 6 winters on a non-insulated crawl space and it's fine. Everything's fine. We don't get that cold here for it to matter. My house is treated for termites. How long should it be termite free after the treatment? If you're saying how long did the chemical to act, that would be generally about a month. Give it about a month. The liquid treatments are a little bit faster acting. It's about 90 days for the Centricon. So just 2 different ones. How long should they stay? Again, 5 years to 10 years for the liquid. And then with the Centricon, it should be as long as that system is active. So as long as somebody's checking those stations. That brings up a great point. Tell your clients to get termite warranties if they're not on Centricon, because all of our treatments come with a 1-year warranty. But after that, it's, kind of up to them if they want to extend that. It's $175 right now for our, and that's just a one-time annual fee. What is termite insurance? If you get termites, we'll treat for free, which
Okay,
is going to happen. So
right. So the product lasts for 5 years, but you're signing up on the annual thing to get checked and make sure and like, okay, I get it.
yeah, so right, so that
It's
comes
like
with,
having a warranty.
that comes with, it's a warranty. That comes with an inspection. So we're gonna get down there and we're gonna inspect. And if another company happens to be down there and says, hey, you've got termites here that are new, right? And we're not gonna trade if there's something that we already treated and that is a stain, right? That's different. But if there's absolutely, we're gonna treat. So there you go. All right. Jordan said you guys like horror stories, so here's a couple. This house was
I
over
recognize that
in Sandbridge, and Sandbridge has a bad habit of building these tiny little crawl spaces that no one can get into, like 4 inches. So this on the left there, actually was the one on this house. Felt pretty good about this. Was that on the left was that little tiny mud tube, and where that little tiny circle is on the arrow over, that's where it was found. Right there on the bottom was about an inch gap. Swiped my finger through it and saw live termites. Wish for a termite inspector is a great day. No, just kidding. It is always fun to find live termites because you're like, oh, it's crazy, you know what I see them. Well, they ended up tearing the siding off, and you can see in that, this is after the fact. I mean, we didn't tell them to do this, but they ended up doing it anyway.
So is that dark spot?
That
all
dark spot is all termite tubes. So
right above Denny?
they have crawled all the way to that 2nd floor. And in fact, in that 2nd story window, there was termite damage. So this is one of those times that probably the liquid treatment alone would not have done anything, or it would have done something, because those live termites are right down there. It would have taken a long time because those termites
They have
are
to
gonna
carry it
go
all
the
back
way.
up, right?
So yeah, so this was great, that they took the time. This is before the closing, so all this was rolled into the whole deal and fixed the issue. This is a damaged girder, so you can see that girder has been just absolutely eaten from the inside out, and it is cracking under the weight of that house.
That is no good.
Pretty nasty. On the right there, that's a joist. I believe that's actually from the same house. Just breaks off.
Let's say we don't have the choice of the termite company that we're using.
Yeah.
When they go and take pictures of that repair that's supposedly done, like, what are we looking for? How would you repair that?
So I think, I'm not sure if I
We don't
put
really have a
pictures of
whole
the,
picture, but
no, so you, unfortunately, you have to raise the house. Here you go. What is this question? Let me see if it's related. Oh, no. All right. If the home inspection shows damaged wood members for a home that was treated in the past and the moisture inspection comes back with the box checked, no, under there were visible damaged wood members. Okay, hold on. The box check, no, okay. Under the floor level of the first floor fungus, how should we proceed? Okay, I think I understand the question to me.
I have the entire report, both the home inspection and the moisture and termite inspection. I will let you.
Yeah. So this is obviously not a, for instance.
No, this is not a for instance. We are literally in the midst of this.
So this gets tricky.
Why do you have to tell him that?
This goes back
Because he's
to-
gonna help you.
So this goes back to, if basically what you're saying is the repairs were not done correctly, is that right?
So no repairs were done,
Oh, not at all.
not at all. And then we got the report and there's notations on the report, but there is no estimate for repairing any of this damage. The home inspector really freaked out the buyer.
Mm,
So I don't know, because there's no pictures, but there's pictures on the home inspection, but not from the moisture and termite company of anything that they found. Doesn't appear that they found live bugs. It looks like it's all old damage. However,
But the boards are damaged.
the boards are damaged and it really freaked out.
So a couple
The
things,
buyers.
at least one company in the area doesn't. do
Yeah.
Any.
I want to add that they did know that it has the fungi below the wood destroying fungi.
But they didn't, but
So
it's,
they acknowledge the dampness and the fungi, but not
dang, this board is.
the damage of the boards.
Hmm. And was the damage caused by termite or moisture? Both.
Because I mean, the agent told me that they did do treatment in the past.
Right, but the wood damage that the inspector's calling out, is that caused by moisture or termite?
Long-term.
He was
pr-
saying,
moisture.
the home inspector was saying it was moisture.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I mean, okay, I see here, that looks like termite to me, but.
Yeah, well, he's the
Based
home
on,
inspector, not.
based on these tiny little pictures, which are hard to see, but,
Yeah.
okay, so I would call the pest management company and say, hey, did you guys see this? And they may have, right? They may have said, look, like, again, we're not structural engineers. Our guy said that it looked good. There is totally the option of you send 10 people in a crawl space, you're gonna get 10 different answers.
Mhm.
Because it's
Mhm.
not black and white, unfortunately. This is black and white, right? These pictures are black and white. If you miss this, like, yeah, hey man, you missed that. But if it's borderline, there is a very plausible, like, hey, look, we're not
There we
structural engineers.
go.
And frankly, that's where we
There's the
can.
other one, and you can zoom in
Oh,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, okay, some of these look pretty bad. Again, it's small and pixelated, but if there are termites in there, they should at least be the box C on the report, section 2C, where it says, I'll go back to that. Oh no, why is it not going back? There we go. B, and then not C, I'm sorry, 3, visible damage from wood destroying insects was noted. So it should at least be there. So if it was termite, even if they're not calling for the wood to be replaced, so say it's like superficial damage, right? Just grooves in the top of, I'm not saying that's what this was. I'm just saying, for instance, you can write that on the visible damage down there and we'll say like superficial or facial damage. And then we'll say we don't recommend whatever wood repairs.
There's the actual report.
Oh, there you go. Damage found.
Yeah,
in
it
crawl-
says on the report, no active termites found on that
That's
section.
okay.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. So they're basically saying we did find damage. We're just not gonna give you a wood repair estimate. That's all. This is Terminix. I don't think they do.
God help them.
Yeah.
I've never actually seen them on a contract, to be honest with you.
I have not seen very many either.
Was not prepared for that. I was like, wait, what?
So yeah, so Terminix is basically saying, yeah, you got termite damage. Go find a contractor.
No, on ground.
So that would be where you would hopefully that the underwriter, I think, now this is outside my lane, but hopefully the underwriter would say, well, okay, it says here, have these damages been fixed? Yes, no. And if they say no, then they're saying, we're not gonna lend on that property. I think I'm wading into waters that are not me. That's more y'all.
Yeah,
But that's where I would think, in which case, again, I've run into this with at least one other company. So now there's 2 companies I know of that do this. And I've called that company to say, hey, why didn't you fix this? And they said, we don't do wood repairs. And that was it. And then basically hung up on me. So,
so there is
yep.
fungus, but
Yep.
we don't have any.
So they're saying that the moisture, that it was caused by the termites. What do you do in that situation?
I mean,
Try to get a quote from either another termite company or just a contractor and say, hey, can you fix this? Or again, kind of like the judge that we use is Zach Shepard, the structural engineer. He can go down there and use math and measurements and say, this does or does not need to be fixed. And it's like a combination of physics and building code and all kinds of other stuff. And we just use that as the final opinion. So the easier probably, because Zach's reports are not free, especially if it's only a couple boards, would be to say, let's just get this fixed.
yeah,
by
and
somebody. So we're on this one.
their stuff is just.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah,
And then I would use a different company.
yeah.
Another kind of crazy termite. I think this might be that same. This was a recent house. This is wild.
God help us
yeah.
all.
Yeah, so you see on the left one, I mean,
Yeah.
that thing is just sagging, right? So inside those fibers in that wood are just being eaten, and that root, the joists are sagging. To your question though, how do you fix this? You have to jack up the house, which is going to cause cracking. If you have something that's this extreme, you will cause cracking to this house. You can be as careful as you
Cracking
want.
where?
Drywall, tile, countertops.
Thank you.
So if you are doing a rehab, please let us know. Do not put
Let them do it before you start
Yes.
putting finishes in.
We had a guy, we didn't know this. Here's a brag on our company a little bit. Doing a flip, put a nice thick granite countertop in. We didn't know this. We were told the home was vacant. We went down there the next day, jacked it up, cracked the countertop. We paid for the countertop
No, you didn't.
because, yeah, we did. What do you mean?
God bless.
Because we want that
Good
agent to
man.
use us again, this agent, and that's just the right thing to do, right? It's the way to do business. So anyway, don't do that again though, is what we told, let us know. Don't put your fancy granite countertop in until after we do the foundational issues. We, on all of our projects that is existing homes at the bottom, they disclaimer, hey, cracking can occur. Drywall is pretty easy to, you just mud over it, paint over it, you're good to go. Tile, if we know that we're going underneath the bathroom, you're probably gonna have cracking tile, at least a couple of them. And if we tell you ahead of time and you still say, yep, we want you to do it, then we're not paying for it. So that was a special situation, special agent that is a good friend of the company. All right.
Perfect. I'm just gonna get everything replaced. What do you want to jack up over my house?
No, that's why we make you sign it. So this is an inside. This is one of those pieces of wood that came out of the house. So it's the inside, right? It shows like what that looks like. That's why that is compressing, right? Those termites are eating that wood like it's going out of style. And then when that house sits on top of that, it sags. The other thing is it's very hard. You're moving a house that much, there's just a lot that goes into that. It's a big job, basically. So case by case, we'll talk about it. Moving into moisture, this was a lot of fun. Oh yeah, there you go. That's a lot of damages.
We're gonna get somebody else over there.
This is
Hey, what do you think is
moisture.
happening?
Yeah, we'll go there. Give us a call. This looked like you walked into like a cavern or something, or a cave. Nasty.
What is that?
That is moisture and fungus.
That stuff growing? Is that thing's growing?
It's growing. It's like underwater, like seaweed.
Yeah.
You like move it, and it's like
That's what it looks like.
disgusting.
Looks like I went diving.
And you see on the left one, screwdriver. I actually was on this inspection. I just pushed that screwdriver in there. It's very easy to do because this would be an example of excessive wood moisture conditions.
All that white stuff is moisture.
Fungus, I mean.
That's
we
what I
can't-
meant,
We
I'm sorry.
can't say it's mold because we're not biologists.
But it's growing things.
But it's probably mold. So yeah, it's disgusting. There's this whole ecosystem down there. This, I forget how many 30-something joists were in this one. I mean, it was ridiculous.
What is that under?
I mean, what do you mean?
Well, no,
house?
I mean, like, which, I was just thinking, like, did it come from inside or outside?
If I recall correctly, this was about a year ago or so. No vapor barrier, vents were plugged, so don't
Oh,
ever do that.
no.
If you plug vents, put a DU in. Otherwise, think of a plastic bag, put some water in there. Put
Wrap
some
yourself
wood
in
there,
saran wrap and then tell me how you feel.
and then come back in 2 or 3 years and see how that wood is doing. That's what they basically did. We didn't end up getting this job, which I'm not too bent out of shape about. I don't know how they solved it, but it was fine. Our bid was high, which is fine. Again, this is some serious, like, this was underneath the entire house. That was really bad. So this is one where we're tempted to give them a quote for a bulldozer as opposed to our quote. But you can fix it, just money and time. So
You remember what year this house was built?
based
Was it
on the
older?
construction, I would say 60s, 70s. Yeah,
Okay,
this is older.
just out of curiosity.
Yep. When you get into this kind of extensive damage, especially to subfloor, just for your own sake, we don't get into this, but if your client is gonna do any kind of floor repair, do everything at the same time. It's so much cheaper, labor wise, if you rip up that floor.
And let them
and
step
let them-
in.
Yeah, let them step in, haul that 6x6 standing up instead of hauling that 6x6x8 beam on their back underneath sand and grit and pushing through. Like, all that is just labor that takes us forever to do. We have to charge for it. So again, we're not gonna be offended at all if you get another contractor that's gonna do the floors and everything, do it at the same time. That's better. We'll come back and we'll just check, right? We'll say, hey,
Do the re-inspect.
yep, we'll do the re-inspect. So we're not gonna be offended. Again, I'm pretty transparent, open book here. Our margins on wood repair are not that great, especially with the rising wood prices. So like, we're not gonna be offended if you want to get somebody else to do the wood repair. Let us do the treatment and we like that anyway. We like that better. We do the repairs because it's helpful for you guys. But the liability there also we don't necessarily love. So trust us. If you want to go get your own contractor, we are not gonna be offended in the least. Please let us know. We'll be happy. All right, some fun stuff we found in the crawl. A lot of snake skins.
Oh, little buddy, you won't have vermin.
Yeah, so this little guy was a possum. You can see there in the right picture. Our
Possum
inspector, yep, rolled over him on accident. He was underneath a bunch of vapor barrier, just chilling out, bunched up vapor barrier. And he just hit, headed for the hills when our inspector did that and started hiding over there on that sill
Literally
plate.
rolled over top of him. Poor little fellow.
Well, I mean, he's fine, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But he.
I assume you're talking about our inspector.
That
because
is
I'm sure his heart
That
was
is a
racing.
very rude way to wake up
I
someone.
know, right? I'm always very noisy when I get in the crawl because I want all these things to know that I'm down there and to leave until I get, until I'm out of there. I don't like snakes. And then lastly, this was my favorite find of all, in a house in Portsmouth, believe it or
That's
not.
a lot of weed.
That's a lot of weed. So I crawled in the crawl. I didn't do anything with it because snitches get stitches. But no.
Take a little sample.
So it's a duplex and I'm doing my thing and I'm going and I see a orange jumpsuit at the end of the crawl. And I thought, my first thought was that's a dead body. Because it looked like about the size of the body. And then I thought, oh, that's a prison jumpsuit. And then I was like, all right, what is that? So I crawled over there and I opened the orange jumpsuit and it was full of trash bags. I was like, well, I've come this far. So I ripped up my trash bag and there you go, a bunch of weed, all neatly packed. So it's sitting right inside. I don't know if you can see in the picture, there's a vent right behind it. So somebody's a little signal here. But it was a duplex and the landlord apparently did not tell the tenants we were coming. And so there's only two. And yeah, our truck was parked out front. So I was like, as I walked out, saw the guy watching me from his door and I just went like this. I don't see anything and went on with my day. But it was gone the next time we came back to do the repairs. So that's good. So that was my favorite find.
That'd be my favorite too.
Yeah, you find a lot of dead animals and
We found a bunch
weird
on a
stuff.
home inspection one time. It just
Yeah.
sitting right out in the open too,
Yeah.
like it was in an open box. I was like,
People think that crawl spaces are like their vault, I guess. They just put all the stuff down there, so. But
you find weird stuff under crawl spaces.
anyway, I lied, I guess. We ended up doing a lot of questions throughout. So that's it. That's all I got. Appreciate you guys. We have 4 Chick-fil-A sandwiches here. If you want one, please take one. Otherwise,
They're all mine.
I did bring these little $50 gift cards if you'd like
Oh,
to use
to
our
make sure
company.
they can see.
Oh, you
you.
can't see them. All right, cool.
Share.
There we go. I think it is. I think it's just up right here. Let's see that little guy. Cool. Boom, there we go. $50 gift card.
Do you guys see that?
So let us know. I mean, you can probably distribute them as you see fit. I brought, I don't know, 10 of them or so.
Why not share, guys?
Give it to your clients, give it to yourself. We don't care. But they can use it for pest treatments. They can use it for anything. That's the other thing. We offer everybody that does a termite and moisture inspection with us, the buyer, we offer them a free pest control treatment. So when they move in the house, they get a pest treatment with that. So, but we need their information in order to do that. So you'll see that we ask for the buyer's information. So we got to schedule with them. So that is it. Any last minute questions? Otherwise, I'll let you go on today.
No, we appreciate you coming.
Cool.
Well,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for listening this long.
There we go. We stopped recording.